I would like to dedicate the program to our brothers and our sisters in Israel. God should watch over them. All our prayers are with them. Our title, Staying Connected with Hashem, that's God, staying connected with with each other and with ourselves in a disconnected world. I grew up in a disconnected world, disconnected from my heritage, even though my parents were Jewish. I knew I was Jewish, but I had no idea what it meant. My husband also grew up in a disconnected world, also with Jewish parents. We both grew up in New York, and we met at a very young age. I had just turned 15. I was in 9th grade, and he was in 10th grade, age 16. So we grew up together, and we had always felt something is missing. We felt that disconnection very, very deeply. When I was very young, growing up, I was trying to be a good person, but how I wasn't connected to any knowledge. I wasn't connected to our eternal heritage to tell me what does it mean to be good, what's right, what's wrong. The way we were raised, if I thought something was right, you thought it was wrong. It was wrong for you, it was right for me. And I felt such emptiness inside. It's just like every day is like the next, and what's life really for? Living for materialism is not satisfying at all. You want this game or this dress or this, whatever it is, this item, then you get it. Then you want the next thing, and then you want the next thing. You're never satisfied, that empty feeling inside. That's feeling a disconnection to something meaningful. What's life really for? What's our higher meaning and purpose? Growing up, we never met anyone who believed in God. We thought, it's a ridiculous idea. What? God is this old man sitting on a cloud pulling the strings. We're puppets. What is this silliness? And we had very fine secular education. We went to an excellent prep school. That's where we met in high school. It was run by the Ethical Culture Society, which was founded by a German Jew in 1875, who was the son of a German Reform rabbi. And for him, reform was much too far to the right. He took ethical teachings from the Torah, and he made ethics into a religion. He subtracted God. He subtracted mitzvahs. So just be ethical. And what does being ethical mean? Do what you think is right, and as long as you're not hurting somebody else, it's right. And be happy. Now, this disconnected world worships happiness. I want to be happy, very me-centered. I'm entitled to be happy, a sense of entitlement, and wanting to have instant gratification. Our society, with all our electronic gadgets that people are so into, and it makes them separated from other people and focusing on themselves. I want to be happy. I'm getting married, and if this person doesn't make me happy, it's okay, because it's very easy. I can get divorced. Everything is dispensable in this disconnected world of ours. So, but what really is happiness, and what really is love? That's another thing that is very much in our society as a disconnection from reality. Hollywood love. You see stars, so romantic and so exciting, and then you don't make me happy anymore, and goodbye. So Rabbi Dessler points out, what really is love? What's real love? The Hebrew word gives us an indication of what real love is. Ahava in Hebrew is love. And the root of the word ahava is hav, which means to give. The more you give to someone, the more you love the person. The more a mother gives to her child, the more she loves the child. And what's happiness? To see the person that you love to be happy. That the more you give to another person, the more you give to others, the happier you are. That's the real happiness that comes to us. And that's how we really connect with our souls, with our Creator, that we give to others and the blessings come back to us in our marriages, in our family relationships, in our friendships. The more we give to someone else and not feel, I'm entitled, you make me happy, or goodbye. The more we give to another person, the more we love and the more we have and the more blessings in our lives. So I grew up in this world of not having a clue what it meant to be connected to our Torah, to our life, to our people, the life of our people. I was never interested in going to Israel. I was never interested in anything. As a matter of fact, I thought I knew what my Jewishness was because I had gone to Sunday school through third grade, and I didn't like it. It had nothing to do with our life. We didn't keep anything. We didn't keep kosher. We didn't keep Hanukkah. We didn't keep Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I had to stay home from public school on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur out of respect. We didn't go to synagogue. So I thought I knew what Jewishness is because I went through third grade in Sunday school. It had nothing to do with me, and my friends from my class in public school, I went to their bar mitzvahs, and it was a party. That was very nice. We had delicious roast beef, and we had a nice party, and we gave nice presents to the bar mitzvah boy. That's it, goodbye. They never went back to synagogue again. So I wanted something more than a party. I wanted reality. I wanted a real meaning and purpose, something bigger than myself to live for. And my husband felt the same way. Even when we were 15 and 16, we knew something's missing, and we searched together. We got active in all kinds of causes. We were active in the civil rights movement. It was the time of Martin Luther King. And we were active in conservation, trying to save the beautiful natural world that Hashem made, but we'd never heard of Hashem, we never heard of God. And then in college, we went to University of Michigan, and we were active in the peace movement. We were the anti-Vietnam War, we were trying to bring peace to the world. Nothing that we did, all these causes we got active in, didn't fill up that empty feeling inside, feeling so disconnected from the real thing of life. I'm not making any comments about the worthiness of these causes. I'm just saying that for what we were looking for was not there. It didn't fill us up with a feeling of meaning and purpose. So while we were in college, we got married when I was 19 and my husband was 20 after my freshman and his sophomore year of college. And of course, we knew we really belonged together, but we had no clue how to make a good marriage. Our society gives us values which are not helpful towards having a good marriage. As I said, this whole, love, Hollywood, bells ringing. Rebbetzin Youngreis, and you'll hear later how I met her, I remember she said, much more important for a couple than looking into each other's eyes are that they both are looking in the same direction, to have the same goals in life. So also, there's another value in America. You have to speak the truth, and if you're angry or whatever you're feeling, you have to vent and you have to get it out. But the truth is that speaking in anger is very destructive. If you speak to your husband, you speak to your wife in an angry way, it's only going to be very hurtful and could leave scars much worse than physical scars. Feelings of hurt that don't go away so easily. So we grew up thinking, we have to seek the truth. Now, it's not always a good thing to say the whole truth in every situation. We learn this from God himself. When Abraham and Sarah were told that they were going to have a child, Sarah laughed, and she said, I am so old, and my husband is so old, and we're going to have a baby? So Abraham said to God, what did Sarah say? And God said, Sarah laughed because she said, she's so old, how can she have a baby? God left out that she said that Abraham was old. Here they were, Abraham and Sarah, 90 and 100 years old, and God was speaking in order to preserve the shalom bayis, the peace in their home, the love and the peace, and their relationship is primary. God left that out. So you don't always have to say everything that's true. You have to think, what are the consequences of what I'm saying? Will it help the relationship? Will it help the situation? Or will it hurt it? You don't have to say, if your husband, your wife is wearing something that looks terrible, it's just so unattractive and so, how could in the world could they put on such a thing? You don't say, oh, how could you do that? You have terrible taste. What are you doing? And No, you say, you are so handsome. You are so beautiful. Whatever it is, husband, wife, you are so, so handsome, and this does not do you justice. I think it would be much better to wear such and such, and let's go shopping together, and we'll find something better. And so there's a way to do these things, and that makes the connection between people stronger, and the love grows, the relationship grows in a good direction. So we learned from God himself. So we didn't know all these things when we were in college. We had no clue. And we were having some problems in our marriage. And my husband just woke up in the middle of the night one night, and he cried out. He was so upset. God, if you're there, help me. Now, this is amazing because of the way we grew up, when no one we even knew believed in God. We never heard of Torah. We never heard of mitzvahs. We never heard of Shabbos. We never heard of anything. We didn't know Aleph Beis, no connection. He called out to God. And all of a sudden, he just felt hope. There's hope. He felt God is there. So together, we started to study. But what did we study? Not Judaism. No, of course not. Judaism is materialism. We need something really true and spiritual. So we studied Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity over the years. It took many years. We were major students, and we read and we studied. We never actually went to services or to the temples or the churches or whatever. But we studied for years. And eventually we were students at Oxford University, and we traveled all in Europe, and then we saw all the beautiful Christian things. That's when we were very much studying Christianity. But nothing filled up that empty feeling inside. We still felt so disconnected from the real spirituality of life, the real meaning. We knew that to be religious, to be on the highest level of living by truth, we have to be normal people too. We're not going to do what Buddhism says, sit on a mountaintop and contemplate. That's the most important thing. Or to remove yourself from the world, to be a monk or a nun or whatever. All these religions, the highest is really to become an ascetic, to remove yourself from society. We wanted to be normal, married people and raise our children with a meaning and a purpose, a real connection to God in our lives. And none of these religions we studied fit that bill for us. So, by this point, we lived north of New York City in Cornwall, New York. It's about 60 miles north of New York City, a beautiful place, mountains on the Hudson River. No synagogue, a lot of churches, some Jews there, very, very assimilated like us. And our daughter had mostly non-Jewish friends. She was 5 years old. We had two daughters by then, 5 and 3 years old. our 5-year-old was asking us questions we didn't know how to answer. She asked us about God. Her friends told her all about their religion, and we certainly didn't want her to get involved with that, so we decided we better look into our own. Since nothing else seems right, we asked a friend who was active in the community. At this point, my husband was the editor and publisher of a newspaper, and he was an advertiser. We knew him that way, and he was active in the Jewish community 5 miles away from us in Newburgh, New York. And we asked him, could you take us to the synagogue? We want to see if there's anything there for us. So he said, next week there's this lady evangelist coming. Why don't you come? Evangelist. Well, she's not an evangelist. Maybe some of you have guessed. It's Rebbe and Esther Youngreis, who founded the Hineni organization, which is an outreach organization to teach our Jews what it means to be a Jew. She's not trying to convert anybody from another religion. She spoke that night. She told us all our souls were at Mount Sinai when God gave us the Torah. We are descended from kings, prophets, matriarchs, and patriarchs. We taught the world there's a God. We gave morality to the world. We have our Torah to study and to live by day and night. Wow, we were so inspired and so amazing. Here we could really have a connection to God and to what's real in life. And now what do? We live in this place where there's nothing Jewish. We wrote a letter to Rebbe Youngreis. What do we do now? She said, come to my Torah portion of the week classes every week in Brooklyn, New York, Tuesday nights. That was the hardest night of the week for us. It was a 2-hour, and it was a 2-hour drive each way for us to go to Brooklyn to the classes. And it was the worst night of the week. My husband had to get the newspaper put together to take it to the printer the next morning. It was really very hard. And it was 1974, during the energy crisis. It was difficult to get gas. Then we looked at each other and we said, we have to go. We have to find out who we are and how we should live. We're going to those classes. So my husband got up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get the newspaper put together. We drove the 2 hours each way. And finally we're finding out how to have a good marriage, how to raise our children, how to understand what's going on in the world. It's all in our Torah. And it was so exciting. Every week we went. And then we were heard that the Rebbitzin is leading a trip to Israel a few months later. That was in June 1974. We'd never been interested in going to Israel. We never felt connected. But now we're learning the first Rashi in Bereshis, the book of Genesis. It says, God created the heavens and the earth. Rashi asks, why does the book of laws start with the creation of the heavens and the earth? And he answered that there's going to come a time, now this is 1,000 years ago, Rashi predicted there's going to come a time when the nations of the world are going to accuse us of having stolen the land. And what should we say? What should we do? We hold up this book. The nations believe in this book. God created the heavens and the earth, and he could give it to whomever he wished. He gave it to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and their descendants, and that's to us. And we were so excited to be able to go to Israel. We got on the El Al plane, the midnight flight. We fell asleep. All of a sudden, there are noises in the middle of the night. What's happening? The men are getting up, and they're putting boxes on their heads. We had never seen or heard of talis and tefillin until that El Al flight to Israel. We got to Israel, and we had the first Shabbos of our lives at a beautiful place called Kibbutz Lavi in northern Israel in the Galil. All you see are beautiful views, beautiful flowers. All you hear are birds singing. All those years we'd worked in the peace movement, we'd never had a moment's peace till we had Shabbos. So we didn't know Aleph Beis, we didn't know anything. We were honors students in college, and we'd heard all the brilliant professors speaking and teaching us. And as far as our Jewishness, we weren't even in nursery school. So we go back to New York, and we go to Cornwall on the Hudson, and we look at each other. We are out of here. We have to move so we can learn and our children can learn how to live a Jewish life. We're going to move to North Woodmere, Long Island, where Rebbetzin Youngreis lives, and we'll learn from the Youngreis family how to live a Jewish life and how to raise our children, have a real meaning and purpose in life, how to be really connected to the real things in life. So it all fell into place very quickly over the summer. We sold our business and our home. We found a house a block away from Rabbi Youngreis' synagogue. My husband got a job at the Long Island Press as an editor, and 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, we moved into North Woodmere. So we start unpacking, the boxes all around us, and all of a sudden the phone rings. Rebbetzin Youngreis, you're sending us 3 guests for Shabbos? But we had only a few Shabbos so far. We don't know Aleph Beis. We don't know how to make Kiddush. We don't know. It's okay. You know very little, but these people know even less than you, and they're going to feel so comfortable with you. And if you have any questions, come on down the street, ask the rabbi what to do. So we did have the 3 guests. It's a whole amazing story. A husband, a wife, and their son. The husband had been in the army in Alaska. He's a Jewish man in the army, far away from home in Alaska. The missionaries got to him, converted him to Christianity. And then he came that summer, just before that Rosh Hashanah, he came that summer to the mountains where Rebbetzin Youngreis was speaking in order to convert Rebbetzin Youngreis to Christianity. He brought his books, he brought the young disciple, a Jewish boy named Danny. Rebbetzin, sit down with us, we want to show you something. It was Friday afternoon, and she said, listen, we have to get ready for Shabbos. Stay for Shabbos, then we'll talk. Rebbetzin Youngreis taught us that you cannot debate with somebody in an alien way of life, an alien cult, alien religion. It doesn't work. You have to get this Jew to be exposed to a mitzvah, to hear Torah, to have a Shabbos, and then that callous, that hardness around the neshama, around the soul, will soften up, and you'll be able to reach the person. So she said, stay for Shabbos, then we'll talk. So they stayed for Shabbos. They had a beautiful Shabbos with the family. And by the time Shabbos was over, there was nothing to talk about. They wanted to get rid of their books, ask forgiveness of the Jewish people. The boy moved in with us to learn to live a Jewish life. So a whole new life, a whole new world for us. We had to have a chuppah, our original wedding, with a very reformed rabbi. There was no kesubah, no marriage contract. And we had a beautiful chuppah and decided not to invite our children. We were afraid they'd go to school the next day and say, my mommy and daddy got married last night. My husband had to have a bris, and he was really nervous. Even though he had had a medical circumcision in the hospital as a baby, still in this case, a moil has to come and blood is spilled, and he was really nervous. The rabbi saw that. He said, here, read this. I'm sure my husband is the only person in Jewish history to have had a bris while he was reading the daily news. So a whole new life, a bris, a wedding, and my daughter, 5-year-old, went to Torah Academy for Girls instead of going to the best school where we used to live, where many Jews go, the Bishop Dunn Catholic School. Thank God. Just in time, she went into first grade in Torah Academy for Girls. The girls know so much by then, and of course we didn't know anything, and we couldn't help her with her homework. They already know how to read and write Hebrew, and we didn't even know Aleph Beis. We couldn't help her. But she caught up, and she did very well in school after that first year of difficulties. And thank God she lives in Israel now. And she raising her family there. So a whole new life, a life of connection to God, connection to our people. We understood from Rebbetzin Youngreis, whatever we learned, we teach others. And we had guests every Shabbos for the last 40 years, just about every Shabbos in our home and when we're home. And the Rebbetzin explained to us, when you have, let's say, for example, a most delicious dinner and you eat it by yourself, it tastes good. But if you share it with others, it's so much more delicious, and that's how Torah is. And when you're sharing with others, and we talked about before, the more you give to others, the more you have, the more blessings you have. When you're not looking for your own happiness, the happiness comes back to you because you're sharing and giving to someone else the happiness, and it radiates out. So our prayers, as I said, our prayers are with our brethren in Israel, and our prayers are, of course, one of the major ways that we connect to God. Speaking of connection, think about when we say Baruch Atah, we're saying a bracha to God, we are speaking directly to God. It's the most amazing thing when you think about it, that God He made us, He made the world, He gave us Torah, He gave us everything, and we can talk right to Him. It's the most amazing thing. And it's so important to think about what we are saying when we are praying. It's very easy to just automatically say all the words without really thinking about what they're meaning, but just to think, Baruch Atah, you're talking right to God. It's just mind-boggling, even to think about those two words. So I want to give some examples of how, of course, we learned Aleph Beis from Rabbi Youngreis, and we learned to read Hebrew and to pray in Hebrew. And it's amazing how, if you think about it, our society, speaking of a disconnected society, our society is geared to prevent people from thinking. The pressures of everyday life, the run, and just all the distractions, whether it's the media or the entertainment or the pressures and as I said, this feeling of I'm entitled and I want and I want my instant gratification and running after all these things, and without thinking. My husband, by the way, was in a doctor's waiting room one day in a hospital in New York City, and the TV was blaring, and no one was really looking at it. And my husband went up to the receptionist and said, "Do you think you could turn off the TV? No one's even looking at it." She said, "No, it's a law. It's a rule of the hospital. The TVs have to be on in the waiting rooms because if patients have to wait a long time, then they are anesthetized by the TV and they don't complain. It's a rule. It has to be on." And this is how our society is, that we become zombies with all this media that we're exposed to, and we don't think. And if we would think, then we would have the connection, the most meaningful connections in life, connection to God, connection to others, connections to ourselves. For example, Adon Olam, this is a prayer we say every day, and in shul, everyone is singing or saying it, and it becomes sometimes automatic, and you don't really think about it. But what are we saying? That God, who He was, He is, and He shall remain. He is forever, always and forever. That He is my God. V'hu keli v'chai goali, v'tzorchev li b'yetzara. He is my God. He's my personal God. Think about the Ten Commandments, because this is a connection that we should have to think about that will help us connect to God, connect to our people. For example, the first commandment, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. Of course, there are thousands of interpretations of what you could talk about it with this, but what I want to point out here is, I am God, I am the Lord your God. I am your personal God. I care about you. I am with you. I see you. I watch over you. And it's a personal God. And what did He do? He took us out of Egypt. Amazing. it says that we would still be there if God hadn't taken us out, and it doesn't necessarily mean Egypt itself. We each have our own it means a lot of things, but my thoughts are that we have our personal Egypts. We all have. We all are slaves sometimes to things that we shouldn't be slaves to, whether it's to materialism, whether, there's so many different things, habits that aren't good, and we become slaves. And think about it. God is my God. He took me out of Egypt. It's amazing. And really, this is a commandment to have gratitude. Gratitude to God. And of course, in our connections with people, it's so important. Gratitude to the people that do for us. Gratitude to each other. Gratitude to God. And here it is. He is my God, my personal God. I'm so grateful to him. My rock of my pain, Sur Chavli, he is a rock, a solid rock that we can base our lives on, that we can turn to. He's always there. And then the last line of Adon Olam, V'imruchi geviyasi Hashem li v'lo ira. God is with me, I shall not fear. So it's so important to think about what we're saying in the prayers, and then we will be so uplifted and have such a feeling of connection to God. Another example in the blessings of the Torah that we say every morning, and we describe the precepts whose fruits a person enjoys in this world, but whose principle remains intact for him in the world to come. And these, I'm going to read them now, and if we center our lives on fulfilling these things, then our lives will be so full, connecting us to God, connecting us to others, connecting us to ourselves. Kibbud Av V'Em, which is an honor to father and mother. And I remember Rebbetzin Youngreis once pointed out, not only is it essential that we work on honoring our parents, but when we become parents, we must honor the fact that we are parents. Honor that we are mothers and fathers, meaning that we know that there are little eyes watching us, there are little ears listening to us. What do we say? What do we do? The example that we set for our children is the most important teacher. So honor the fact that you're a mother, that you're a father. Acts of kindness. This is, we are Rachmanim and B'nai Rachmanim. We are kind people, and the children are kind people. We have this as a basic connection with our families, with our friends, with our Jewish people, with all mankind, that we show this example of being kind. And it's a whole list of early attendance at the house of study, morning and evening, hospitality to guests, hachnasas orchim, hospitality to guests. This is so, so important, and it's obvious that this way we can connect with others. We're really one family, our Jewish people. We're a family. We're not just a nation like any nation. We are a family, and we reach out to other Jews as family, in our homes for Shabbos, in our homes that really our home is the home of our brothers and sisters too. And visiting the sick, providing for a bride, escorting the dead, absorption in prayer, and bringing peace to bring shalom between a man and his fellow. All these, you could talk for hours about these things, but if we center our lives on this, then we'll feel so connected to God and to our people. Bringing peace between a man and his fellow. This is, of course, Aaron HaKohen, Rodef Shalom. He sought peace, and he made peace between people. And this is something that we should always have in mind in our families and with our friends. Shalom bayis, peace in the home is the highest goal in our homes. And we should also have it in mind when we visit other homes, that we should try to help there be peace in that home. For example, if you're visiting a husband and a wife, and the wife makes the most delicious dinner, and the husband is telling wonderful stories and wonderful jokes, and you just have such a beautiful time. Tell the husband, your wife is the most gracious hostess, and she made the most delicious meals. She's such a wonderful cook, and you're so lucky to have such a wife. And say to the wife, oh, your husband is so interesting and it's so amazing. All the stories and the Torah he teaches and his sense of humor, and he's just terrific. And you're so fortunate to have such a husband. Then you're helping the shalom bayis, the peace in that home, which is the highest thing. Also, we say every morning, Elokai neshama shenasata bi tahorahi. My God, the soul you placed within me is pure. This is so important for us to realize, talking about connecting with ourselves. This is our soul. This is our true essence, our true selves. And our soul is pure. Some people feel like, oh, they're not, a person might feel, I'm not good, I'm not pure, I'm just hopeless, I have a soul that's so sullied, and it's not a pure soul, and I'm a hopeless case. But remember, no, God gave us each a pure, beautiful soul. And the more we connect with God and our Torah and our beautiful Jewish way of life and with our Jewish people, we will have a soul that will light up more and more and more. Also, we say Mizmor L'Soda, which is a psalm by King David, and we say Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Serve God with gladness. This is so essential for us to feel the connection with God and with our people. Simcha. It's such a simcha. God created us and He gave us a beautiful life, a beautiful Torah, and just could go on and on and on with all the blessings that we have. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Be thankful and to be joyous is a basic commandment which will help us to feel the connection. Also, it's important to have a sense of humor, which is part of Simcha. Our father Yitzchak, what does his name mean? Laughter. Sarah, our mother Sarah, of course, laughed when she heard she was going to have a baby. And Yitzchak is laughter, and it's a sense of humor is all part of the Simcha of life, and it helps to get over so many bumps and so many tensions that happen in everyday life, and adding to the peace in the home. If you could laugh about it, that does a lot of good. A few more of the 10 Commandments I'd like to discuss. Okay. The third commandment, we mustn't take God's name in vain. This is for every person. There are 7 laws that are given to the children of Noah, that's the non-Jews, and of course we have our 10 commandments, we have our 613 commandments, but this is a commandment for all mankind that we don't swear, we don't curse, we don't take God's name in vain. And it's a reminder, too, that we should have refined speech that elevates people. This is all part of our elevating ourselves to serve God and to be connected. Shabbos, the 4th commandment, to remember the Shabbos and keep it holy. This is all part of increasing the shalom, the peace in the home. And that peace from the Shabbos radiates out into the week. And any person who comes to your home, hachnases orchim, as we talked about, hospitality to guests, the person walking into your home should feel that serenity, feel that peace, and you could change the world with this beautiful peace. One more prayer I'd like to point out as being such an important lesson for us to live our lives and to have that connection with God and with others. one time, Rebbetzin Esther Youngreis's brother, Rabbi Jacob Youngreis, pointed this out to us. The Havdalah service, with the service that we make at the end of Shabbos to separate the Sabbath from the weekday. What do we say at the end of Havdalah? We bless God who separates between holy and secular, between light and darkness, between Israel and the nations, between the seventh day and the 6 days of labor. And we bless God who separates between the holy and the secular. If we keep these distinctions in mind, these are guideposts for our lives, to make these distinctions and to live by the lessons of these distinctions in our lives. So it's just so special and wonderful that to discover the heritage that we had to search so hard for. And really, the truth is, the topic, how to stay connected, it's not just staying in one place. All of us, no matter where we come from, if we were raised in a religious home or not raised in a religious home, we all have to find that connection for ourselves, that it becomes real to us. And it's ever growing. We work on it. We try to raise our awareness, to think about it in all the different ways that I mentioned. And of course, there's so many other ways to do it, in Torah study and in prayer and working on ourselves to fulfill these things. It's a dynamic process of growing and increasing and elevating our connections to God, to each other, to ourselves. With God's help, we should all grow more and more, and we should see the blessings come to ourselves, to our families, to all of Israel, and we should see peace in the world. And thank you so much.
If you have any questions, you talk loud enough. You can stand up and say.
How did your family handle, both families handle your journey?
They were really in shock. Our parents were very shocked. They didn't raise us this way. They thought it was archaic, that it's outdated. It's actually, they were hoping it was temporary insanity. But they saw gradually that it's a beautiful family life and that we were so respectful to them. Kibbud av v'em, honor your parents. We worked very hard to honor our parents. And of course, they adored our children and then our grandchildren. And they got to see so much good in it, and they gradually adjusted, although they never totally understood everything, but they had a lot of happiness from it.